Hello and welcome to our latest and greatest edition of Better Together Arizona. I'm your host, Angela Hughey. So excited, and I don't know if excited is actually the right word today. I think it's unfortunate that we are having the conversation that I'm about to have with Scottsdale City Council member Solange Whitehead. Excited to hear your thoughts, but wish that you and I were talking under different circumstances. Today, we're going to have a conversation about the recent February 11th City Council vote in the city of Scottsdale, which ended the Office of Diversity and Inclusion and, quote unquote, requires merit-based hiring practices. So before we get into this very important discussion, I want to welcome you, Councilwoman, and give you the opportunity to introduce yourself to our listeners and our viewers.
Well, thank you, and I'm so happy to be here. And of course, I'm also sorry that we're here to discuss the removal of an important department in our city. But I'm glad that there's many more opportunities to fix what was possibly broken this week.
The Office of Diversity was in place since like 96, right?
Yeah, the Office of Diversity has been in place since 1998.
98,
and
got
the
it.
programs that we have done have really been to introduce people to each other and reduce the kind of a bias that we've seen really on both sides, and also make sure that people understand each other's life experiences and viewpoints.
So diverse experiences. And then also the office was where if there was a dispute or a complaint about discrimination that was ran afoul of the city's inclusive anti-discrimination ordinance, that office would house those complaints too and do investigations?
Yeah, that's true. So if there was a complaint or a concern, it's that office that would deal with it. But can I just go back a
Sure.
little bit on the history of diversity?
Yeah.
I think it's important for people to remember that in 1776, only white male landowners could vote, and Catholics, Jews, and Quakers explicitly were not allowed to run for public office. So I just want to say that diversity programs are not new to this country, and that their success has opened the doors for pretty much everybody today.
So, and what I'm hearing from you is people of diverse cultures, diverse thought, diverse orientations, and identities, which is really, I always say that diversity is our superpower.
It is.
So to say that we were really dismayed with the vote by the Scottsdale City Council and Mayor is probably an understatement.
It is. And again, I also want to stress that the premise for this ordinance that was passed that removed the Department of Diversity was based on something that's not true.
So is the idea of requiring and quote unquote merit-based hiring? My understanding is that diverse and inclusive hiring is still merit-based though, right?
Yeah, so that's what I want to touch on. There's two things. One, the council removed funding and the Department of Diversity, which again has been in place for decades under different names. And then also the claim is that the ordinance will require merit-based hiring. And I'd like to delve into that a little bit. The city of Scottsdale does and always has made hiring decisions based on merit. And anybody who lives in Scottsdale can see the benefits of merit-based hiring because we have 25-ton trash trucks maneuvering our community streets safely. We have safe drinking water. That's because we hire the best scientists. We have safe streets because we hire the most qualified police officers. So I can't stress enough that the city of Scottsdale already does merit-based hiring. And I want to make one other point
Sure.
about our community. The city of Scottsdale, as a community, we're united on most major issues. And I don't know anybody at the city, myself included, who opposes merit-based hiring or who would allow anything other. So the sad thing about this ordinance is we have council members that have used the ordinance to divide us on an issue we absolutely agree on.
So I want to recap this. If I'm hearing you correctly, Councilwoman, merit-based hiring has and always will be in place for the city of Scottsdale. Just because you are doing outreach to diverse communities does not mean they are not oppositional, right? does not mean the city of Scottsdale was not doing merit-based hiring. So if this is a false flag, which is exactly where you're going with this, then how do the city's hiring practices change if the city's already doing merit-based hiring?
So there's no change at all. This ordinance, which was concocted behind closed doors without a community process and based on a justification that isn't true. And so if this council had used normal council practices, then the community would have been involved. We may have identified problems, not with hiring, because we're doing that well, but with maybe we're missing somebody in our diversity outreach.
Or innovations that could be made, better practices
Sure.
that could be put in place for the Office of Diversity. Okay, so I want to talk about this because this was really quick, right?
Yes.
It was a really swift action to pass an ordinance, no public outreach, no data to support the need for an ordinance, and there really wasn't a full council discussion, right?
No, I was not asked at all what I think of if this was a good idea.
So is that how the city council normally operates?
No, this is completely a departure from how city councils have operated for generations.
What do you think the true intent is?
Well, I think that sadly, I believe this was a political move and not a policy move.
Okay.
And we need to get our council, these are new council members, some of them, and maybe we just need to work harder as a community to get this council back on track. We're a community that's very engaged, and it's not normal or good for any council to make decisions behind closed doors and without community outreach.
And there were a number of Scottsdale-based community members at the city council meeting on Tuesday, right? I mean, it was a packed house, right? I mean, were you heartened to see so many Scottsdale citizens at the
Yes.
council meeting?
You know, as I said at the meeting, I mean, our citizens, whether we're talking about the unnecessary repeal of the sustainability plan or the defunding of diversity efforts, our constituents make me so proud and make me laugh and make me cry and make me learn things I didn't know. So our community is amazing, and that was evident Tuesday night as well.
With all of the commentary. I think I saw a news report that said there were 70 speakers that were in favor of keeping the diversity office. There were 2 speakers that were in favor of removing the diversity office. So this kind of goes back to the fact that this was a really quick decision. They didn't go through the council members that voted to remove the diversity office didn't go through the proper or consistent channels that typically happen. No data collection. It sounds like not listening to citizens and really where their hearts were and where they wanted the city of Scottsdale to be.
Yeah, when this item appeared on the agenda 10 days prior to the meeting, we received more emails in opposition to the move than I have ever received on any other topic. And we had so many people show up to the meeting that people were forced to watch the meeting in an overflow room. Yeah, and so definitely this is proof that the idea, the ordinance was not vetted through the community.
So what do you tell people that are passionate about DEI, that are dismayed by the removal of the diversity office? What do you encourage them to be their next steps?
Well, I think, first of all, it's important for everybody in our community to understand that while the acronym DEI has been poisoned by both those who maybe have abused it and those who simply oppose diversity, what the acronym stands for is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And as a city that last year attracted 11 million visitors from around the world, I think everybody in our community, regardless of what they perceive diversity, equity, and inclusion to mean, wants to continue keeping Scottsdale safe and welcoming to all. And so that's, first of all, I want to bring back the point of unity in our community. because I think that is true. And as far as, how people can engage, well, we saw how they can engage. I think it's important to write letters to the editor and talk about the importance economically from a public safety standpoint and from the ability for our city and our businesses to hire the best and the brightest.
Well, I mean, the perception's 9/10 of the law, right? And so
Mhm.
you've just removed an Office of Diversity, and I know Scottsdale was an award winner of like one of the best places to attract talent in 2024. And Scottsdale has an inclusive non-discrimination ordinance in place, right? And so that says to me that the majority, which was a unanimous vote by the former
Yes.
council, that the majority of people in Scottsdale really do want Scottsdale to be for all. There was a Scottsdale for All campaign years ago, and so these things don't seem to like align well, right? So there's campaigns of Scottsdale for All. You're welcoming 11 million visitors, and then there's an abrupt closing of an Office of Diversity. It seems like for purely political reasons, not because the office was doing something that was running afoul in any way, and also that the vote didn't go through like all the proper channels that typically an important decision such as the vote that was taken at Tuesday's council typically goes through. And so again, I guess go back to perception as 9/10 of the law, right? 11 million visitors in Scottsdale. My wife and I and some friends were out at the Waste Management Open um, last week, and I think a lot of people saw the viral video of the young man who was very, very drunk, and also said some really hateful things towards diverse communities. And so I think my concern is like you see this video of this young man at the Waste Management open saying horrible things towards diverse communities. 2 days later, or maybe it was 3 days later, you have the Office of Diversity removed in the city of Scottsdale. Like, do you have concerns that this really tarnishes Scottsdale's image?
It doesn't just tarnish Scottsdale's image, and also is a threat to the many businesses in Scottsdale. It puts the public at risk. It reduces our public safety. The purpose of the office and the success of the office has always been to bring people together, because when you know someone, there's less bias, less hate, and less distrust. So it's very symbolic in a bad way to remove that office. You mentioned the Scottsdale for All poster, which showed people representing many different ethnicities, religions,
Diverse communities and backgrounds and beliefs, right?
and beliefs.
Yeah.
So we had a poster at City Hall that showed all the people that make up Scottsdale, or tried to represent the people that make up Scottsdale. That poster was removed. So if we are sending a message that Scottsdale is not open for all, we hurt ourselves economically and we hurt many of our constituents, but we also invite the hate that we've worked for decades to remove from our community.
When I was reading about this on the agenda, I learned something that I did not know, that a former leader at the Office of Diversity was a man named Don Logan.
Yes.
And when in the early to mid 2000s, when he was over the Office of Diversity, he actually opened a bomb and lost 2 fingers in the Office of Diversity, and where they were targeted by neo-Nazis. Is that correct?
Yeah, so thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, Mr. Logan spoke Tuesday night, of course, in support of maintaining the Office of Diversity that he himself opened. And when I hear from people that refer to the extremism at Harvard using DEI for reasons that hurt people, not help people,
Mhm.
I get that. But everybody needs to know, and they need to remember that here at the city of Scottsdale, our employee was targeted for assassination, and the bomb injured 3 employees. And so I think it's important to remember that extremists aren't left and they're not right. Extremists are wrong and they're dangerous. And so we cannot tolerate extremism in any way, shape, or form. And I believe that losing the Office of Diversity, we're losing one of our best weapons for preventing extremism in Scottsdale.
Extremists aren't left, they aren't right, they are wrong. And you believe that you've lost a really important vehicle in the city of Scottsdale to fight against extremism.
Correct.
And then again, against the public perception that Scottsdale is not welcoming and, as we like to say, open for business to everyone. And, Scottsdale has, I don't know how important tourism is as a driver in Scottsdale, but I'm going to imagine that it's one of the top economic drivers in the city of Scottsdale. I can tell you for myself and my wife and allies of the LGBTQ plus community, we are all thoughtful where we visit, right? Where we travel to, because we want to be in places that we perceive are safe and where we will be welcomed. And so it has to be a top concern to you, and I would imagine to economic development folks, that with, again, the really, really horrible video of the young man at the Waste Management Open, who had some very disparaging things to say about diverse communities. And then just a few days later, the Office of Diversity being removed, that Scottsdale's sending the wrong message. That Scottsdale's not sending a message that Scottsdale's open for all, and that it's inviting those extremist views that you're talking about. Scottsdale wants to be protected from. And so it really does harm public safety.
Yes, and those are my two concerns. I mean, among many, is the economic impacts. Scottsdalians enjoy an incredible quality of life with some of the lowest taxes in Arizona. That comes from our successful tourism. And of course, we were just listed one of the safest cities in the country and one of the best places to raise a family. The move on Tuesday hurts all three.
What are your plans moving forward?
Well, I think we just must continue to publicize and support the benefits of diversity and the benefits of equity and inclusion. Equity doesn't mean I get to drive the same car as you. It just means that unlike in 1776, I can run for office, or I can be a plumber, or any other opportunity if I'm willing to roll up my sleeves and get the work done. So equity is the word that seems to be weaponized and misunderstood. It's about opportunity. It's about being at the table. And of course, inclusion is, it speaks for itself. So we need to continue to speak truth. We need to continue to write letters to the editor about the benefits. And I think I will be personally working very hard to protect funding for these programs, even if the diversity department is removed. And I'll be working very hard to protect our recently unanimously passed anti-discrimination ordinance, which I can tell you is a metric that businesses, sports teams do look at when they're determining where to play a game or where to hold a conference.
I'm so glad that you brought up the anti-discrimination ordinance. So Scottsdale passed the anti-discrimination ordinance in April of 2021. We have 11 municipal ordinances that are inclusive of all people in the state of Arizona. But based on population, they cover 52% of the state. But when you look at how large the map of Arizona is, it covers less than 15% of our state. And so we have work ahead of ourselves. And what I like to talk about is that our rights should not depend on our zip code, right? You want to make sure in the city of Scottsdale, which I would imagine is one of the reasons that Scottsdale unanimously passed the anti-discrimination ordinance in April of 2021, that anyone that works or lives and plays in Scottsdale has equal treatment and is welcomed, right? You really, and so in my mind's eye, Scottsdale seems like it's at a bit of a Y in the road right now. You have the unanimous passage of an anti-discrimination ordinance in 2021. You have a Scottsdale for All campaign, educational campaign that was done. And so that's where Scottsdale's been. And now you have the removal of that poster. You have the removal of the Office of Diversity. And that very well is going to impact conferences that are looking to come to the state of Arizona, people that are looking to travel to the great state of Arizona. You brought up professional sports. Arizona is home to we have the big game committee. We love hosting a big game, and I will say, having attended the 2024 Super Bowl in Las Vegas, that nobody hosts a big game better than the great state of Arizona. We want to make sure that those opportunities keep coming to our great state. And they come to states that welcome everyone.
Yeah, I just think that's so important. We got to kind of take off of our political aspirations and calculations and really just focus on Arizona as a whole. And I want to share that message with people who came in support of diversity, equity, and inclusion as well. We did hear from people who lumped white, Christian, straight males into one category as well. I can tell you I'm married to a white Christian son of the American Revolution who was as devastated as anybody about the council's move. So I think that's another message I really want to share with everyone. Diversity, inclusion, and equity is for all. And we can't blame any group for the bad behavior of a few. And so that's something I hope future supporters of diversity, equity, and inclusion will remember.
But I'm so glad that you bring that up, Councilwoman Whitehead, because we have to stop othering one another, right? We have to stop just saying, well, you're LGBTQ, so this is who you are and this is how you believe. I'm a very, very complex human being. We all are. And just because of our culture or our orientation or our lived experiences, that doesn't automatically mean that we all think a certain way. I think it's important that we see the opportunity to meet one another where we're at and to have thoughtful conversations about how we can move forward together. Because while what we're talking about today is about Scottsdale, it impacts all of Arizona. And what we care so deeply about is truly creating a state that welcomes and respects and protects each of us in this great state equally, so that we're creating a sustainable future for everyone in the great state of Arizona.
Yeah, I worry about that. I will say I'm always been proud to be from Scottsdale, and I hear from people that Scottsdale sets the standard. So it's that much more responsibility on this city council to do what's right for all of Arizona. And again, many of my colleagues are new and they're learning on the job. So I'm going to extend an olive branch to them and say, let's get this right.
Thank you so much for your leadership and for making time for this important conversation. And I'm with you. I think important, thoughtful conversations with everyone will help us move our great state forward together and create an Arizona that really welcomes and protects us all equally.
I just thank all the constituents of Arizona that are just active like you. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.